Well, good morning, everyone. It's Thomas Montgomery. Today is Friday, December 29th, 2023. We get together most weekday mornings at this time. This will be, of course, our last session for 2023. Monday starts the new year, and since it is a holiday, we won't be getting together on Monday, January 1st. So we'll resume on Tuesday, January 2nd. When we get together on these morning sessions, we're here to train, to support, to assist each of you, regardless of which side of the equation you're on. We have some of you who are looking for funding to start or grow a business, and we'll talk about how we can help with that. And then some of you are looking to get paid to teach, to help others, and we'll talk about that some as well. So it's two sides of the transaction. They're not in opposition to one another. One's not a secret to the other party. Any organization or any initiative needs to have some sort of outreach effort, and then of course there's the deliverable. So I think it's important to step back. We can get into a lot of details and we can discuss whatever details you want, but we're here to solve two problems. That's why we formed, and I'll scroll down on the shared screen. That's why we formed the 501c3 nonprofit almost 10 years ago. That's why we applied for the grant. And that's why the grant was approved and the package is offered to solve two problems. So again, we're stepping away from all the details and just making sure at the highest level we're clear. What are the two problems that we solve? Problem number one is that there are a lot, and when I say a lot of small business owners that need money. Not all small business owners need funding, but most do. So at the same time, we have banks and credit unions on almost every corner in small towns and suburbs and cities and online and in person. So if we have all these entrepreneurs, we'll call them, that want funding, and at the same time, there's a whole bunch of sources of funding. Where's the problem? I mean, why would there even be any resource needed if you have essentially borrowers and lenders? Well, the problem, quite simply, is most borrowers in this space, most small business owners, they do not qualify for the funding that they want, that they need to start, to grow, to reach their potential. So that is problem number one. That's why we're here, is we have received a grant. We effectively and transparently and legally and ethically can help any entrepreneur, any small business owner have a fundable business. Now, we can spend time and talk about what does it take to have a fundable business and how does all this work, but we're not getting into the weeds at this point. So the first problem that we solve is we have a proven, risk-free, consistent method to help any entrepreneur have a fundable business. There's no question about it. So that's the first problem that we solve. The second problem that we solve is that there are some of us that are entrepreneurially minded. And so, in other words, we're out looking for problems to solve, and then we're looking to be able to monetize that. Right? Because we live in a society where we need to generate income to pay our bills, to save money, to build wealth. So the second problem that we solve, which is best addressed down here in the bottom corner, is we have a distribution partnership model. And it's outstanding. It's not network marketing. It's not MLM. Not that there's anything wrong with those models. But we have a direct sales model whereby individuals can plug in to this resource that we have. They can, without selling, just simply educate. And you say, well, what are we going to educate with? It's right here. And we educate small business owners about what does it take to have a fundable business. So it kind of ties back to that first problem. Because if the small business owners want to need funding, but they don't even know what it takes to be fundable, they're not going to get funding. And so I see some of you embrace this. You understand what we're doing. If we start with education, if you've not gone through this on-demand YouTube, you should. We should have sent you the editable version of the PowerPoint so you can edit it and craft it the way you want. But this describes in a very educational, financial literacy based approach, why do most small businesses not get funding? It's because of mistakes. That's what it's called, 10 mistakes. Well, to no surprise, when we applied for the grant and received the grant to administer the startup package, we're resolving those mistakes. So again, in summary, we're solving two problems, and you can be involved in one aspect, both aspects, or neither. It's up to you. You're smart, you're motivated, you're looking ahead, I'm sure, like we all are, to 2024, and you're deciding what you're going to do to have a better year next year than what 2023 has been. If you're looking at funding, looking for funding to start or grow a business, I strongly encourage you to participate in the package. And if you're an entrepreneur like myself, where you're motivated, you're excited about educating people and helping them solve their problems, then again, you can become a distribution partner and get paid a lot of money for helping people. So are there any questions on the big picture? I'll drill down, but it's so important that we don't get caught in the weeds. We understand what are the problems that we're solving. Problem number one, businesses that want funding that don't qualify. We fix that. And problem number two is people that's looking to get paid to help others. It's looking for additional income. Any questions on that? You can type the questions, comments, concerns into the Q&A box on Zoom. Okay, so I think we're all on the same page there. So conceptually, hard to argue with either of those. But now, the devil's in the details, right? So does this really work? Is it real? Is it legitimate? Is it a scheme? Well, let's go up and look at what the deliverables are. And as we look at them objectively, you couldn't even make an educated argument that this is anything other than factual, that it's truth, that it's what's needed to make a fundable business. So if the problem that we're talking about solving is helping small business owners get funding, we're not loan brokers. And anyone that's here that thinks, oh, we're some loan broker program, that's a mistake. We're not loan brokers and we're not lenders. According to the industry guidelines, we're considered technical advisors. So and that's an SBA term, but essentially we take businesses and make them fundable, legally and ethically. Well, how does that happen? Well, that's exactly what the value proposition is. So let's go through that now. So as I go through these, and I say this most mornings, and I say it with respect, it does not matter what you think about this. And frankly, it doesn't matter what I think about this. These are the facts. These are the irrefutable facts of what it takes to have a fundable business. Now, is it possible for a business to get funding without meeting all these criteria? Yeah, but they're not going to reach their full capital raise potential. They're probably going to pay more. They're going to be riskier, and there's other downsides. So this is what we call the formula for funding. And if you disagree, bring us a CPA, bring us an accountant or a business attorney or a lender that disagrees with this, because I don't think you'll find one. I don't. Now, could you find someone off the street that's not educated, that's not financially literate, that says, this doesn't make sense? Well, of course, but you can find people that tell you that the earth is flat too. So the first thing that we do together, you and I, to help small businesses become fundable is very basic. It's not very exciting, but it's where it starts. It's providing, for free, of course, a unique business address to each participant. What most small business owners will do is a mistake, right? And it's covered down here. They'll form an entity and they'll use their home address or a post office box or a shared address. Those don't meet the credibility standards for larger business loans. Therefore, if that's a common mistake, what we included in the grant, and it's included in the package, is a fix to that mistake, a good, unique business address. Now you might come in, and Brian's saying this now. Brian might say, well, what if the client already has a good address? Well, great. If it's not broken, we don't have to fix it. But this is everything that's included. So you may very well run into small businesses that have some of these credibility elements already. Well, that's fine. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But this is what's included. So essentially, we can take someone from nothing to get them fundable in 30 to 60 days. If the client, the participant in the grant already has some of these elements, well, great. That could just make it even faster. That's not a problem. It doesn't mean that this doesn't work. It just means, great, they already have some elements. But we know that a good, unique business address is important, so we provide it. Furthermore, I'm going to jump ahead to the last bullet. The address matters. The address matters. Where the business is based will determine some sources of capital. What do I mean by that? We can go to Wells Fargo or Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and get a business loan anywhere in the United States. But some lenders, some issuers of funding don't operate nationally. And one of them that does not operate nationally is the Chapman Fund. The Chapman Fund is great. It's from a taxing authority. Now, no, it's not about them taking money away from you. It's about them giving you money. They'll go up to $250,000 from a taxing authority. This is real. This has been around for decades. But when you're getting money from a taxing authority, guess what? Your business has to be based where the taxing district is. Well, we're not the sharpest knives in the drawer, but we're smart enough to realize that. So we went and bought a commercial building. I'm in the commercial building right now. So the commercial building that we bought, that we provide a business address for, guess what? It's in the taxing district for the Chapman Fund, which provides access to that $250,000. Can you be in New York City and get the Chapman Fund? Well, you could live in New York City, but your business better be in the taxing district for the Chapman Fund. So the point is, the first thing that we provide through the grant, how much is it? It's free, is a unique business address. And that address is not only a unique business address, it happens to be in the right place at the right time. Make sense? All right, number two. Once we have, and I know this seems backwards, and when I worked for the SBA, we made a big deal about getting people to go in the right order, because a lot of people will kind of ignore this and they'll go form an entity. Well, if you don't have a good address, what happens? The address on file for your entity is off. It's wrong. And you might say, well, that's not a big deal. I can fix it. That's true. Yeah, you can go to the Secretary of State and fix a bad address or update your address. But when you have a bad address, that bad address isn't only with the Secretary of State, it's also in a bunch of other places. So the cleanup effort can be maybe more substantial than you thought. But regardless, we're going to provide a free, unique business address that's in the geographic area for the Chapman Fund. And then we're going to, at no cost to the client, provide a free filing with the Secretary of State. Again, as Brian would say, what if the client already has an entity formed? Well, great, we'll use it if that's what they want. Or we could use a new one for the capital raise. Doesn't matter. Again, we're not trying to get the client to do things that's not in their best interest. If they have an entity that, well, number one, if they have an entity that's already fundable, then let's just go to funding. We can skip all of this. But that's rarely the case. Usually they're not fundable or not fully fundable, and that's why they come into the program. So address, filing with Secretary of State, free. Then we need to go get the EIN, which essentially means getting set up with the IRS, the federal government. So we have a unique employer identification number. It's like a social security number is to a person. With this, then we can go open our business bank account. Now, it's possible that the banker will ask for other documentation to open the account, and that'll vary by bank, and that can even vary by banker within the bank. If we run into an issue, we can help you with that. But the bottom line is, with these three bullets, now we have the foundation of a credible business. Without that, we're not fundable. With that, we're still not fundable, but we're not going to become fundable if we don't have these three things. So that's kind of the basis we start with. Again, if a client already has these things, great. Fast forward, we're moving faster. Because this is not instant. This is normally a 30 to 60 day process. But if they have some of these items in place, then of course it can go quicker. So once we have these three items, now we have the foundation of a fundable business. Are we ready to go to funding? No. What we need to do then is build out the business credit profile. And if you step away and separate emotion from logic, it makes perfect sense. Because what's the goal? The goal is to create a business position for funding, for fast funding. Well, if the business does not have a good business credit profile, then the lender is not going to necessarily have the confidence that the borrower, the business, is creditworthy, just like as an individual. But we're not talking about personal credit. So we're not talking about personal characteristics. We're talking about business credit. So we're going to work with the client, get their credit profile set up, like with Dun & Bradstreet, get their DUNS number, make sure that the profile is optimized. Obviously, when I say words like optimized, legally and ethically, but for instance, is the address right, the industry right, of course, the name needs to be right, the number of employees, these key metrics that are included in the profile that by default may be missing or may be inaccurate. So we're going to do that. And then under the same bullet, we're going to add primary trade lines. Primary trade lines, real trade lines that they can use. People often ask, what are examples? We could go get a business vehicle. We got ours a couple weeks ago. We had a training on it. So let's say that your client forms a new business. Even if they're not really needing a van to deliver cakes or something, most people need transportation anyway. Why not get a vehicle under the EIN, under the business, fully tax deductible? We can set it up under Section 179 of the IRS tax code to do accelerated depreciation, so they get a refund back from the federal government. But that's one example. They don't have to do that. That's just an example of a true primary trade line. Maybe they want a business credit card or multiple business credit cards. There's lots of options, but that's what we're doing here, so the profile looks strong. The very last thing that we need to do to create a fundable business is to make sure that the financials look strong. One of the most important financials of a business, even if it's a brand new business, is the balance sheet. The balance sheet, of course, shows assets and liabilities of the business. Assets are things that the business owns, and liabilities are debts that the business owes. So often people will say, well, that doesn't make sense. It's a brand new business. They're not going to have any of that. Well, that's wrong thinking, because if we don't have a good balance sheet, we're not going to get approved, not fundable. Well, how do we fix that? Well, part of the grant is us transferring over real, legitimate, accurate, truthful. We're going to transfer over assets to put on the client's balance sheet. So now they have collateral. Not too good to be true. It's just maybe something different than what you're familiar with, but it works. It works. So at that point, then once we have these bullets, now we're a fundable business, and then we can go to funding. We can go to funding lots of different places. The Chapman Fund is just one example. It's a nice example. It's a great place to get funding, but the Chapman Fund will cap out at $250,000. So some people get irate. I think I've had a couple of you get kind of pissy with me. Like, I need more than 250,000. Well, that's fine. We could use this as the first tranche and then go somewhere else for more, or we don't have to go to the Chapman Fund, but it's a nice perk that we will geographically qualify for. So let me open it up and ask for your questions, thoughts, or input. Trevor and some of you are asking about pricing. So when we work with our distribution partners, which we talked about, and this is how you get set up to be a distribution partner if you're not, you determine the pricing. So normally we're not going to talk much about pricing on these morning Zooms because I don't want to undercut you, right? Because you're if you're a distribution partner, you control the client's pricing. When you get set up with us as a distribution partner, we're going to provide you a bunch of editable resources as well as training and support. You'll have an editable version of the PowerPoint, editable version of the press release, editable version of the proposal, editable version of the agreement to enroll. So you control pricing, not us. Now that's different than, well, sometimes people ask, well, what's the interest rate going to be on the funding? I don't know. I'm not the lender, nor should you ever find yourself answering that question, because I don't think you're the lender. So what are we doing? What we're doing, we promise to do, we will do without question, create a fundable business. The actual terms of the funding are not determined by you or I, they're determined by the lenders. So in terms of the monthly cost, which is what Trevor's asking, in terms of interest rates, those are items that are determined by the lender. We, in our model, we don't get a power of attorney. So we don't go out and conduct business in the name of the client. We don't go commit the client to contractual obligations. We're technical advisors. So what am I meaning with that? The client's going to get funding offers, and they can accept or reject each offer. If they don't like the terms, they don't like the interest rate, whatever, then the client can decline that. We'll move on to something else. So we need to avoid thinking about us. When you ask questions to us about the funding terms, you're missing the point, Trevor and others. We're not the lender, and we don't want to misrepresent, because the lender makes the approval or decline decisions. Now, we're, of course, creating businesses that are fundable, so they'll get approved, but we don't control the terms of the loan. And the terms of financing could change from day to day, right? Interest rates change, the markets change. So yes, we're here to help clients become fundable. We work with them to get funded, but we're not the lending institution. So we need to make sure that the right questions are being asked. It's not of what's the monthly payment going to be, because we're not the lender. We don't determine that. All right, so thank you, Trevor, for those questions. And again, we can visit with each of you that are current distribution partners. We should have weekly one-on-ones. And if you don't know how to do that, we use a Calendly link to do that. You can call us, you can email us. Email's probably even better. I can make sure you have that link. So sometimes some of your questions are best suited one-on-one versus in a group format, because you may not want other people to hear your situation. All right. Well, Ashley's pushing me a bit, so I'll go ahead and we'll talk another layer of pricing, but just because Ashley's asking. So here's how it normally works. Normally, for the startup business funding package, the program is $5,000. The grant covers half, and the participant pays the other half. Now that can be financed, and we do have a new lender. We've about 40 different lenders we work with currently, but we do have a brand new buy now, pay later lender that has 100% approvals. So with that being said, the program is normally $5,000. Normally the grant pays half. Normally the participant pays the other half, and that half can be financed if desired. But what I said before is true. Ashley, you can charge more, you can charge less, right? So you're controlling the pricing, but I just went ahead and explained how it normally works. So that's the front end. Some of you who are distribution partners, and if you're not, you can become one down here. Some of you are adding a performance fee, which is like a commission you receive after the client gets funding. That's your choice. If you want to add a performance fee, you can. How much would you charge? It's up to you, because that's your discretion. Some of you are charging a little, some of you are charging a lot, but that's up to you. So that's the money that would come afterwards. So let's say Ashley, the client, signs up, they get $250,000, and let's say that you charge them a 20% performance fee. So I'm not advocating for that. I'm just giving you an example. So you would make 20% of 250, so you'd make 50,000, Ashley, from that client, for example. All right, so on Fridays, we try to keep it concise. So let's kind of wrap it up. We're finishing the year. There are several days left. We're having a record month this month. People will have excuses. Oh, no one wants to do business around the holidays. That's bullshit. We're having a record month. Yesterday was frankly a record day. So if you're looking to get funding, great time to participate. Come to chapmanloanprogram.org. You can enroll and we'll get started today. If you are considering becoming a distribution partner, great day to get started. Go ahead and fill this out. We'll have you ready to start making money later today, no later than tomorrow. If you are already a distribution partner, stop finding excuses. It's time to go help people. The key to helping people is teach, teach, teach. We don't need to sell anything to anyone. This is too good to have to go sell. We just need to teach, because there's lots of prospective businesses looking for funding, and we have the formula for funding. So we'll be back same place, same time, Tuesday morning. If you need to reach us before then, you know where our phone number is, you know our email, chapmanloanprogram.org. Thank you so much, and we will see you back Tuesday morning as a group. And Dulcie, I see you have a question, so you know how to reach us, right? Phone and email. Thanks, everyone. See you Tuesday morning. Happy New Year's. Bye-bye.